We'll do a review of the Sichas in Chelek Tezvov. This is the second sicha for the Parshas Vayeshev. And this sicha is actually taken from a Maimer Sholem Rov, Tavshin Lamed Ches, the Rebbe said, and they put it into a sicha format. The Rebbe discusses over here the saying of our sages that Yaakov wanted to live in peace after all the problems that he had with Lavan, with Esav. And then it was Vayeshev Shel Yosef. Then he had the incident with Yosef. And the Eibishter says, isn't it sufficient for the tzaddikim, what is prepared for them in the world to come? They also want to be at peace over here in this world. What does this all mean? Is it something wrong with wanting to be in peace in this world? And if it's wrong, why would Yaakov Avinu want that? I was going to explain that Yaakov Avinu wanted to have the resolution and the ultimate benefits from Torah and mitzvahs, which bring about the Sholem Rov in the world. He wanted to accomplish it after Lavan and Esav. But the truth of the matter is that the real accomplishment only took place after the Vayeshev Shel Yosef. So that's why that is when it came about, as we'll see inside. So let's learn inside. Aleph. Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz v'Guda Aviv Goyber. The pasuk says that Yaakov lived in the land where his parents lived. Goyber. So that was after Yaakov returned and finally was back after all the tribulations with Lavan and with Esav. So he's back home. So Zogmer Razal, that what does it mean by Vayeshev Yaakov? He's settled over there, Yaakov. Because Yaakov Leishev B'Shalva. Yaakov seeked, he wanted to sit in peace. Kofatz olav Vayeshev Shel Yosef, but the anger and the problems of Yosef jumped upon him. Or it said, the Chazal tell us that tzaddikim mevakshim leishev b'shalva. Tzaddikim want to sit in peace. Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem says, Lo dayan litzaddikim mashem masukan lahem lo'olam haba. Isn't it sufficient for the righteous that which is prepared for them in the world to come? Elo shemevakshim leishev b'shalva ba'olam hazeh, and they want to also sit in peace, relaxed in this world. There's no. So, very poshet. It seems like it was not proper for wanting to sit b'shalva. What does the shalva mean? Does it mean a physical shalva? What was wrong with it? So when Mefarshim explain, the Baal as Olam Haba is the Trakle, since the world to come is the palace. Unoilam Hazi is not a and this world is only a foyer. It's a hallway to get to the Trakle. This world is a passageway to get to the ultimate, which is in Olam Haba. So a person should always feel as it is nor wie a gate in der Welt, that he's only a stranger, temporary in this world. Die was willen haben Shalve in Olam Hazeh, those who seek to have relaxation in this world, is ki'ilu heim avirim malus atrakten la preuster. It only appears as if they want to transfer the advantage of the palace to the foyer, to the fourway, to the hallway, because they want to bring in the shalva over here. Shalva's in Olam Haba. So it seems like this would be a negative to want to be in peace in this world. But the Rebbe says it's very hard to say on Yaakov that Yaakov should be a negative desire. Aleph. So I'm going to move on. That's not understood. Number one. How does it apply? How do we make sense of it as Yaakov Avinu, that our father Yaakov, he's one of the forefathers. They are the chariot, which means, what does it mean that they're like a chariot? Shekole verehem kulam hoyu kedoshim. All their limbs were holy. Umuvdolim in yoni halom hazeh. They were separated from worldly matters. They only became a chariot. They were fully subjugated and submitted themselves as a carriage, only to the supreme wishes alone. Kol Yimeim, all their life. All their days, they were always a Merkava. So how could we say so he should sort of transfer the cheshivas from traklin, the importance of the traklin, that it's not to over there we send in peace. He should put that importance of Preisdar on this hallway, on this foyer, Olam Hazeh. Ubefrat, especially when we talk about Yaakov, as Eris given Shlimu Dabon, he was the most wholesome of all the forefathers, even more than Avram and Yitzchak. So how would Avram want to transfer the advantage of the traklin of Olam Habo into Olam Hazeh? The Rebbe says, if you look at the language number 2, you see that it wasn't something really negative, because the thing is that, isn't it sufficient for them? They want this too, which means that in essence, it's not a bad thing, but they have enough over there, so they don't need it here. But if we explain like that, it turns out that it's a negative. According to the above interpretation that they're transferring, that this is a negative kumtuis, then it turns out as mevakshim leishem b'shalva b'olam hazeh, that they seek to sit in peace in this world, is an inyan bilti rotzui. That is something which is not desirable. But when you read the language of our sage of blessed memory, isn't it sufficient for the tzaddikim that which has been prepared for them in the world to come? They still seek to sit in Shalva and Elam Hazeh. Is mashma over there, it appears as the taina to the tzaddikim, that what is the argument to the tzaddikim? It's not like what they're doing is wrong. The taina is blois as the dafen sich banugin mit Elam Haba. They should be satisfied with Elam Haba. Aber nicht as that etzem inyan, but not that the idea itself from Bikish Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva, that Yaakov wanted to sit B'Shalva, Hotin sich achsorim is something lacking, that this is no good. That's not what the illusion is. Basically, this tells us that wanting to sit B'Shalva isn't a physical, bodily relaxation. They don't want to do any work. They want to rest. No, that's not at all. It means that they want to get to a spiritual level. The Eibishter says that spiritual level is not time yet for that level. It's the fun muchach. So from this it's evident. As mitzayim velun leishe b'shalva ba'olam hazeh, that wanting to sit in peace, in relaxation in this world, is Yaakov given oisen. His intention was not a shalva gufnis v'gashmis. He wasn't looking for a physical, bodily shalva, just to have this physically being in a peaceful way. Nor a shalva ruchnis. He was seeking a spiritual shalva, relaxation. These two, to the extent what he was looking for was his bedoime, that's something which would be similar to Olam Haba, because it says they wanted Olam Haba. In other words, they wanted to have the Olam Haba style of menucha. What is the Olam Haba menucha? Shalva over there. She'ein boy lo yachila. So Olam Haba she'ein boy lo yachila. There's no eating. There's no drinking. All what the tzaddikim do, they're sitting in and delighting in the ray of the Shechina. That is the shalva that Yaakov was seeking. So what is the complaint? It consists, in them was his genug, that is sufficient for sazah shalva, such a type of relaxation, that would be similar to that which they enjoy from the ray of the Shekhinah, is farzeh misukon lo'olam haba. That is prepared for them for the world to come. But in this world, over here we have to utilize every instant. Nitay shalva, not on relaxation, nor if avoida, but you have to do avoida. Similar to the saying of our sages of blessed memory, today we do the work, tomorrow, the next day, we get reward. So that tells us a little what we're talking about here. Still, how is it that Yaakov wanted to come onto such a level? Besides the point, what exactly does it mean that he wanted to have in this world? What's it all about? But nice of them was that in for the beer. This still requires explanation. What is their matzah relation b'shalva b'elam hazeh? What is this condition, this situation that a person is sitting in peace in this world? That it is similar to Olam Haba. What exactly does it mean? Is it moving, but it's still not understood? Since in this world it needs to be work, not relaxation. So why would Yaakov seek to sit b'shalva? Yaakov's avodah is doch sicher gewesen. His service of Yaakov certainly was shaloya manas lekabel pras. It wasn't in order to get reward. He didn't work. We can't say that he worked even for such kind of reward to reach a spiritual shalom. Sein Mavukish is given, his seeking, what he wanted was only nor to mekayim zayin dem rotzin ha'elyon, to fulfill the will of the Supreme. That's what he wanted to do. That's all what Yaakov wanted to do. So why would he want to do shalva, spiritual shalva, when the world is a time to do the work? And further, we actually see that he did get some shalva. If you have to work, so why did the Eibishter give him the last 17 years in Vayechi Yaakov Gimel? After the end, when the anger and the problems with Yosef concluded, is doch given, there was Vayechi Yaakov Be'eretz Mitzrayim Shvayes Rishona. He lived there for 17 years. Yosef B'Shalva B'Olam Hazeh was sitting relaxed in this world. So what did the Torah we just learned? That Leidain L'Tzadikim, that they have relaxation in Olam Haba, they want it also here, but he did take get it over here. The Rebbe is going to explain that after a person finishes a lot of his work in Olam Hazeh, he actually can reach to the level of Shalva in Olam Hazeh, Mein Olam Haba. Base, the Nekudas Abir in them, the point of explanation. The Pirush from Bikesh Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva, when Yaakov wanted to sit and relaxed, is as it had gewollt haben dem Inyan HaShalva. He wanted the relaxation, not sort of as we talk about relaxing, because you don't want to work hard. He wanted the Shalva nicht als a tachlis for sich, not as a goal to be relaxed, but he wanted his avodah to reach such a level that brings with it Shalva. Nor als an Inyan, was is verbunden mit den Schleimes Samakumen von seiner avodah. This is a matter which is tied to the completion of the intent of his avodah. His work brings Shalva. To fulfill the wishes of Hashem who acquires him. That's why he wanted the Shalva that comes as a result from his avodah. And similar as the language that the Rambam uses in connection to the request and the desire to Yemosha Mashiach. Why do we want so much Yemosha Mashiach? So the Rambam writes, As dosis kideshi imtzulahem margoya v'yirbuchokma. They should find themselves that relaxation so they can increase in wisdom. So that's the ultimate intent for they're aspired in order to reach the ultimate level of the avodah, to come to be able to do it in the highest level. So what is the argument? What is the argument? Isn't it sufficient to them, to the tzaddikim, that which is prepared in the Olam Haba? Is as demol at that particular time, that wasn't yet ready for Yaakov's level. As demol, then hat noch Yaakov nicht gekannt aufnehmen. Yaakov could not accept the shalva, that relaxed state. Und der Riber hat sich dann gemusst benugenen. That's why he needed to be satisfied them with them, because the Inyan wird kommen als Schar B'Olam Haba. At that point, he needed to be satisfied with this that is going to come, the Olam Haba. Only after the story with Yosef, then he can get that level of relaxation in this world. Durch them, through this was Kofetz alav Regzah shel Yosef, that the anger of Yosef and the whole story took place, and that brought about is this Yaakov mis'aligavon. Yaakov was elevated, and he was able to receive that relaxation. Was is kinal b'demitz of the Giluf and Olam Haba, which, as mentioned earlier, this is similar to the level of Olam Haba. In this world, he was able to already get that level. At that time, before he wasn't able to, but after the Shvais Rishana, he can get it. Because the Fargi Fitman, that's what we find as Nordem, that afterwards, his last 17 years were away from Vayechi Yaakov. Yaakov lived as eine Gewen Yorum from Shalva Eich Belam Hazeh. They were years of relaxation also in this world. So the Rebbe is going to go now into a lengthy explanation how the mitzvahs have the point just to do the mitzvah for the sake of the mitzvah, but yet the mitzvah itself has a connection to the reward that comes as a result of the mitzvah. Gimel. Batmanas verstehen behagdim will understand this by introducing was in schar mitzvahs gefindt man zwei in yonim hofchim. In reward of mitzvahs, we find two opposites, paradox. On one hand, a mitzvah is not for reward, and on the other hand, the mitzvah itself brings the reward. The tachlis hamakuvim for mitzvahs, the ultimate goal of the mitzvahs is nit as durv zeis or der krechten at zweiter inyan. It's not that I do the mitzvah, then I'll be able to reach, I'll get something for the mitzvah. The Kabbalah Schar say that I'm going to get a reward for doing the mitzvah. So the goal of the mitzvah is not the mitzvah, but the mitzvah in order to get something else. That's not the case. But the kima mitzvah gufa, the observance of the mitzvah, the schar mitzvah, the reward for the mitzvah is the mitzvah. That is to do the mitzvah itself is the reward. So why is the reward for mitzvahs? So just do the mitzvah without reward. Und das, was man bekommt, schar for kima mitzvahs. And the reason that we do get reward for observing the mitzvahs is as well, Hashem does not take away the reward of all creatures. You work for Hashem, you did a mitzvah. So the Eibishter, any creature, the Eibishter gives you the schar kiyitzvah. Those are external reasons. The mitzvah really should be done because of a mitzvah. For an external reason, Hashem does not want to unfairly take away the reward because you worked, so he gives you reward. So it almost seems like the reward has nothing to do with the mitzvah itself, because the mitzvah doesn't need reward. It's just to give you something because of the Eibishter doesn't want to be mekapeach. But really, on the other hand, is the schar was the Eibishter. The schar the Eibishter gives you is derivative from the mitzvah itself. It's not like something else we're giving you because we have to give you, but it is something that is a result of the mitzvah itself. The schar was the Eibishter that sold for kima mitzvahs, the reward that Hashem pays for observance of mitzvahs. It's not a matter that on its own, it has no connection to the mitzvah. Nor it is a mesuva. It is a result. It's an effect, and an outcome from the mitzvah gufa, from the mitzvah itself. The mitzvah itself brings about that reward. So you're saying the reward has no connection really to the mitzvah, and yet the reward stems and is a result and comes from the mitzvah itself. Bilishoin from Alter Rebbe, in the line of the Alter Rebbe, what brings the mitzvah, the cause, the reward of mitzvah? The mitzvah itself brings the reward. It's not, it's given something else. It's the mitzvah that brings out the schar. This is mischor nedmusa. A lot of times, how do we know? We see what the reward is. That's how we know what the mitzvah is. So you see that there's a clear association. But that's difficult to understand. Since the mitzvah does not need schar, or it's not meant for schar, schar is only from a side point. How is it that the mitzvah itself brings the schar? Darf verstehen, so we need to understand. Since this that we receive reward for observing the mitzvahs is to live as and that's because of a zaitik tam, for a side reason. Because Hashem does not cheat or take away the reward of all creations. You worked, you're supposed to get schar. That's not seemingly important or connected to the intent and goal of mitzvahs. The goal of mitzvahs is not for schar, it's just for the mitzvah itself. And we have to give you something so that you're not cheated. So why is the mitzvah in such a way as a gufa zayin asibet schar, they become a cause for the reward. What is an Indian study, which is a side matter. And the Rebbe is heading to try to explain that even the reward becomes a part because the Eibishter warns the Ratzon Elyon is that the mitzvah itself should carry itself a reward for everyone, so that even people who need reward and things like that. Let's look inside Dalet. First, the Rebbe brings another area where it seems to be a similar paradox. Similar to these two extremes in the minyan for schar mitzvahs as it relates in the matter of reward of mitzvahs. To time mitzvah, we also find as it relates to the reason why we do mitzvahs. Reasons for mitzvahs. Dem Eibishter's rotzen b'mitzvah, when Hashem's will, wishes, desire in mitzvahs, even those in the category that are testimonials, those that are logical laws, and they have a rationale, a logical reasoning of those mitzvahs, still the rotzen of Hashem is a rotzen shelamayim hata. The fact that we have a reason doesn't mean that that is the reason for Hashem. Hashem's will is beyond the reason that we can say, oh, this is why we should do the mitzvah, this is why we should do the edus. That's not the mitzvah itself is a rotzen ma'amata. And those was not timing of mitzvahs. The fact that many mitzvahs do have reasons is as mitzad them. That is from because of this was the rotzen from the mitzvahs that they want for these mitzvahs is a rob gekommen islamisch geworden, that it descended and it dressed up that also in the wisdom and the intellect, this higher level of wish has descended into a level that we can understand. But on the other hand, it's understood. I'm not going to say that the logical reason is something different than the actual will of Hashem. This is not something different. As does the slapshus harotzin in tam, this that the rotzin comes into reason is verbunden mit der Shleimus und Rotzin Gufe. That is tied to the wholesomeness, so that the rotzin is complete. It can come down also into reason, just like come down also in a schar. The Rebbe is going to tie it together. The Rebbe explains now when I say, how does this bring shleimus to the rotzin when it comes down in a tam? The schar becomes part of the reward of the mitzvah. Shleimer, hey, abir bazah. Can we say the explanation? The shleimus harotzin from the Eberstein and mitzvahs is the wholesomeness, the complete wishes, want of Hashem in the mitzvahs is as v'yez on nitzayin matzovim amodiv in the makayim mitzvahs. That no matter however it may be the standing and the situation from the person doing the mitzvahs, soll der Herren die Gutskeit und Nötigkeit von der Mitzvah. He should be able to sense the goodness and the importance of the mitzvah. Hashem's want is that his mitzvah should be able to be appreciated, and that the person, no matter at which level he is, should be able to sense the goodness and the importance of the mitzvah. Und der Riber is the Rotzin von Mitzvahs the slabish geworden in Tam. And that's why these mitzvahs have been dressed up into reason. When is goyrem und bringt, and also it causes and it brings schar, reward, kidei, in order as oich anar kotn, even a young lad, beruchnis, meaning a person who's not yet understanding, he's a young lad in a spiritual state, he's not yet understanding. Even at his standing, the Shena Rambam, as the Rambam uses in the Matzev Zainim, Narkot Meruchnis, language of the Rambam. In the Matzev Zainim, so the Herren Zeir Gutzkeit for him, he should be able to also appreciate and to sense the goodness for him. So that is part of the Rotz, and that this should come down to everybody's appreciation, no matter what their standard. Since the created being relative to the creator is totally no comparison, there's no relationship, is that ilui hanal was in mitzvahs. So this special advantage that mitzvahs have, which is what? Was they good for all sugim bedargas, that mitzvahs are good for all categories and all levels. Was das is val they good be'etzem, because they're really essence good, so they manifest itself in all levels. But mele b'tachas hashlem is ultimate wholesomeness, that it's always good. So this that zayin begilu by Adam ha'mekaimim losid love, they will openly be revealed. When will they be revealed? This, when a person will do the mitzvah in the future, he will be able to sense that. Then will be revealed the desire and the delight of the essence that are in mitzvahs. Was is hecher from timing, which is higher than reasoning, on schar and reward. In Olam Haba, in La'asit, the future over there, you'll be able to sense and have an appreciation for the essence of the time. Bis to minyan for Nachas Ruach L'Beira, doing a pleasure for the creator, not your pleasure. By tzaddikim gedolim. Now, there's also some exceptional tzaddikim that get to sense that level of the mitzvah and get that tainug atzmi, even while in this world. By tzaddikim gedolim, by great righteous people, zayin and zoicha, so elom chotiru bechayecha, they merit that the world, their world of Olam Haba, they're able to see while they're in this world. Is that Giluv Hanal Faran Oichin Zein Avodah B'Olam Hazeh. So that above mentioned revelation exists also in their work in this world. So they have an exception that they can feel what is going to be felt loss and love now in this world. As in Zeir Ki Ma Mitzvahs B'Olam Hazeh, that when they fulfill the mitzvahs in this world, Shteit Begilu the Rotzen V'Tainug Atzmi stands openly the desire and the essence of the pleasure when they doing their work. How are they able to sense it? So the Rebbe brings down, you require two conditions. You require the condition that you should be totally subjugated, so you don't have your own self, and that you become connected, that the Ratzon, the Tainig above, is you. You're no different. Let's look inside. They as their Ratzon, the Tainug Atzmi. So can sein the Gilu in the Avodah, in order for this, the Ratzon and the essence of the light of Hashem should come openly in the Avodah of that Tzaddik. We require two conditions. Number one, Aleph, Tachlis Abitl, total subjugation. As the Avodah all sein in ganzen Shaloya Manas L'Kaval Pras. The service should be totally not to receive any reward. Also not for a spiritual reward. Nothing in return. Nor blois lemalos. So first is just working and serving Hashem to fulfill. That's what the Eibishter wants. Ritzoin, koinai, the one who acquires him, Hashem, his rotzin, that's all he wants to do. And Beis, number two, that it becomes who he is. He wants to do what Hashem wants, and Hashem wants overtakes him. He is now only, this is Hashem's want. As those gufa, this itself, the service to fulfill the wishes of Hashem, should be in a way, this is really what his true existence, this haste. As the rotzin and tainuk from the Adam ha'ovet, that the desire and the delight of the person that serves is the rotzin and tainuk from Eibishter. This is Hashem's will. This is Hashem's delight. So you become just the place in which Hashem's desire and will is wanted. And these two ideas are hinted in the pasuk of Shalom Rav La'ohav Eser Esacha. People come up. The pasuk, it says that there is lots of peace for those who love the Torah. The Rebbe is going to bring down from the Maimer of the Friedrich Rebbe. Why does it say Shalom Rav, those who love Torah? Why doesn't it say Shalom Rav to those who study Torah? And yet, the Rebbe brings further in the Gemara, it says Talmidei Chachamim. The Rebbe is going to bring about the two levels of the Talmid Chacham, of the Torah, to bring into the level of Oyav Eser Esacha. So you need both, as the Rebbe will explain. These will be the two matters that are hinted in the pasuk Shalom Rav La'ohav Eser Esacha. Oyhavei and Torah Esacha, both learning Torah with the proper bittul and also to become to the level of Oyav. Ches. The way Kedushas Mericham Admur is Mevayer. My father, the Rebbe, is Mevayer. In the Tam Favosha state, the reason why it says Shalom Rav Le'ohavei Eser Esacha. A lot of peace for those who love Torah. Afal Pi as Benegeya Torah, although with regards to Torah is L'chayra Mer Masim Der Loshim, seemingly more fitting would be the language of Loimdei Eser Esacha, those who study Torah. So why does it say Oyav Eser Esacha? The Friedrich Rebbe explains to reach the level of Shalom Rav, you need to be more than Loimdei Eser Esacha. Balkidei, so the Greichen, in order to reach to Shalom Rav, this great piece, Vos Torah the Torah brings, is that inyan for limud hatera leinit masbik. So just studying Torah isn't sufficient. You can't come to Shalom Rav loim de sicha. Whereas further sich euch ahavas Torah, you also require love of Torah, nochmer, and more than that, the ahavas Torah dav zayin nit nor to live der yoker, to live dem yoker u'malas Torah atzmo. It's not enough that the love of the Torah should be because of you cherish the preciousness and the greatness of Torah itself. Nor beikir mitzadem oive soirosecho. Mitzadem is soirosecho. It's your Torah. Mitzadem no, it's not Torah. Love the Torah in the sense that the Torah is your Torah, is the Torah's Hashem. That is the necessary requirement to get to the level of Shalom Rav the Pasuk is talking about. That's what the explanation of the Friedrich Rebbe. But the Rebbe asks, but in the Gemara, you see clearly that this Pasuk is used as Tamidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam. Doesn't say the Oyhavei Hashem Marbim Shalom Ba'olam. And the Gemara says Shenemar. It brings a Pasuk. Shalom Rav, or Shalom Rav Lo'evei Seresecho, we say. So how is this fitting that the Friedrich Rebbe tells us that this is not talking about Limud HaTorah, we're talking about Ava, loving Hashem, loving the Torah Secho. And the Rebbe will bring out how the Talmidei Chachamim have to come to the level of Lo'evei Seresecho. Darf man verstehen? The Pasuk Shalom Rav Lo'evei Seresecho. This verse, there's a lot of peace for those who love Torah. Vert in Gemara gebracht al Saraya. In the Gemara, it's brought as proof, as evidence of them as Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam. That Talmidei Chachamim bring a lot of peace in the world. Shalom Rav means they bring peace because Lo'evei Seresecho, the Talmidei Chachamim bring peace in the world. Ein Vibal das zum Inyan from Shalom Rav. Since in order to come Shalom Rav, for the tzich davke ahavas haTorah, there is required specifically the love of Torah, and not just the love of Torah. Under farvazi is Torah secho. It's your Torah that brings the Shalom Rav. So why is the Gemara just using Talmidei Chachamim? Torah is mudgesh in the Raya. So why is it emphasized that the Chachamim bring Shalom? Is as mudgesh in the Raya from Pasuk Shalom Rav Lo'evei Seresecho. So over here we say in the evidence we're talking about Lo'evei, we're talking Torah Secho, but Mashenk in the Maimer Atzma, but in this statement it doesn't say Lo'evei Torah Marbim Shalom. Says Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam. Students, scholars bring Torah Shalom Ba'olam. Was euch da is der Loshen Marbim. Shalom Rav is Marbim Shalom, not Shalom Stam. So that's the Shalom Rav in which the Talmidei Chachamim Marbim. Steht Talmidei Chachamim Stam. It's just Talmidei Chachamim. Was meint die was lernen Torah? That means they study Torah. So you're saying explaining that Lo'evei Seresecho means a different level. In order to get to Shalom Rav, you need to be Ohavei Seresecho. But in the statement it says Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom. Is the beer in that? So the Rebbe explains this. To bring in the pasuk Shalom Rav Lo'evei Seresecho, when the Gemara brings this pasuk, is the Gemara oisen dit not to bring in noch haraya, not bringing an additional proof, a proof as Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam, that they bring Shalom Ba'olam. But what the Gemara wants to bring the pasuk Naraich zu Moisiv Zayin in them noch an inyan. The Gemara wants to add an additional aspect of it. As Olam da, when we say Marbim Shalom Ba'olam, in this context, is Koilel Oich de Talmidei Chachamim. Marbim Shalom Ba'olam, meaning they bring Shalom in the Talmidei Chachamim itself. As Olam do is Koilel Oich de Talmidei Chachamim. That here, the meaning of Olam, it includes Talmidei Chachamim. Durch them was the Talmidei Chachamim to an Oif Aribu Shalom in Welt through the fact that they accomplish lots of Shalom in the world. Seinen Zei, die Talmidei Chachamim, Oich Zoiche, Su Shalom Rav, Afilu Berg. They also increase their own level. Also, they become Shalom Rav. The Gemara brings the pasuk Shalom Rav that by bringing Shalom in the world, they become also the level of Shalom Rav, even in relative to their level. Was is a hecherer suk Shalom, that is a higher category of Shalom. With their Shalom was a tunay b'elam kipshutai, then the simple Shalom that they accomplished. Marbim Shalom b'elam shenemar. Shalom Rav that they increase the Shalom in themselves also. Kipshute. In addition, that they accomplish in the world simple. Explain. Amitis inyan hashalom. What is the true concept when we say Shalom? Because we're saying a Shalom Rav, lots of Shalom in the pasuk. Peace doesn't mean you're not fighting, but peace means that there's no room for fighting. There's no need. There's no opposition. Shalom Rav is nit nor der bepoil from Shalom. It's not just the actuality of Shalom. As the menaged vert menutzach, that the opposition is beaten, umacht Shalom, and he makes peace because you beat him. Not as is gar nicht shaykh the metzias von amenagid, but it doesn't even apply to be in existence. There's no opposition. Und davon kommt der Shalom bepoil. From this, as a result, comes the actual Shalom because there's no opposition. Und der Eufen von Shalom, that style, that type of Shalom, is not in Atzmus Yisbach, is only in the blessed essence of Hashem. Bald, as Eris the Emisar believable, since he's the real node, not limited, no definition, no defined. He has no boundaries, no definitions. So there's not applied to him to be something else and opposition. So real Shalom is Atzmus. There's nothing else there opposing. And this is added by the posture that the Gemara brings, how they create more Shalom in the world. This, that the Talmidei Chachamim have the power to accomplish peace in the world, which means this Achdus bepoil von zwei Fachen. They unite actually two opposites. Olam, the world, which blocks and opposes godliness. Meet Elokus with godliness. Is mitzad them Shalom Rav comes because of this great peace, amitis in Yashon, which is true Shalom, was in Torah that exists in Torah. Torah, in essence, has that great level of Shalom. That's how they can unite oppositions in the world. Mazi is mushrish in atzmus. That is rooted in the essence of Hashem. We can now, as Torah mitzvahs and the rotzim, the tainig atzvim, what's musis barach. We said earlier that Torah mitzvahs are the will and the essence of the delight of atzmusi. So therefore, Torah has that power of atzmus, and therefore that's the Shalom Rav, and that gives the Talmidei Chachamim the power to bring Shalom in the world. Durch them was Talmidei Chachamim to oif Shalom b'olam. Through this, that they accomplish Shalom in the world, mitzad dem amitis inyan Shalom from Torah, because of the idea of the true Shalom that is in Torah. Vert oich bazei Shalom rab, so that they also get the great Shalom. Afilu berkab, even in their level. As vert bazei nizgale, by them it becomes revealed the rotzin b'tainu from atzmus was in Torah. It's revealed by them that will and the delight. This is an atzmus which is in Torah. The tzaddik gets that level of atzmus, that rotzen and tainug, comes to the tzaddik. Since in order to merit this above revelation, so as we said before, you need as the Aveda soll sein betachlis habitl. You need to do the service with total subjugation. Lamalus ritzain koine, to fulfill the wishes of Hashem. Their far is in them negeya le'oyevei seresecha. That's why it has to be the love of Torah. Azeir ava unkochim Torah, that their love and their involvement, boiling in Torah. Also, the aspect of Torah that brings you to action is not nor mitzad Torah atzvit, not just because Torah itself, mitzad iluyim vasinir, that there is advantage in Torah, nor mitzad Torah secha the meisin Torah, but because of your Torah, the giver of the Torah. That's what brings about the Talmidei Chacham, that they themselves get the Shalom Rav in their own Madrega. Oistes. Medarf noch aber verstehen. We still need to understand. Bald has the avoida von Oyevei Seresecha. The service of those who love your Torah is not to memale sein. It's only to fulfill the wishes of Hashem. So it needs to turn out as a haben mer chayis and koch in kiyum mitzvahs in limud Torah. That there is more energy, there's more vitality, and there's more involvement, excitement in the observance of mitzvahs than limud Torah. Because if all what you want to do is to fulfill the wishes of Hashem, the wishes of Hashem are expressed more in the mitzvahs. Warum? The kavona from the merotzen, the intent of the rotzen, dire betachtoinim, which is the dwelling place tachtoinim, firtzuchos beikar, that is mainly accomplished through chiyum mitzvahs, through the observance of mitzvahs. Wazayin dvarim gashmi, which are in physical matters. Tachtoinim echagabe seichel, they're also lower, even relative to the intellect. So while Torah is mainly intellect, this is in the physical acts. Why do we refer to them as loving the Torah? We connect it with Torah. But and we'll understand it according to the explanation of the Alter Rebbe of the Mailas Habitl von Eisek HaTorah legab dem Bitl von Kiyum HaMitzvos, the advantage of one's subjugation in occupation of Torah relative to one's subjugation in the observance, fulfillment of the mitzvahs. Vayeshev mitzvahs is their bitl, the subjugation of the person when doing a mitzvah is ke'eved ha'mekayim mitzvahs ha'melech v'yisud dvorav. It's like a servant who fulfills the command, the mitzvahs of the king, and he does what he says. As opposed to the subjugation in the occupation of Torah, is as the dvar havai zu halacha, that the word of Hashem, which halacha, he hamedaberes mitav gereina, that is which talks from his throat. So it's not him talking. He's not an Eved, but it's Hashem. Because the far is Malke Rabbanon. Who is king? The Rabbanon. Because it's not them, it's Hashem. It is not b'chinas Eved. He's not in a way of a slave, was folk. When he's that listens and he subjugates himself to the king, nor as a Metzias Gufa is their melech, but rather his existence itself is the king. This we can say, based on this, we can say, this is the reason why they're called, they love the Torah. Although, notwithstanding the fact that because their subjugation to the intent of above, is that Iker Chayes in Kiyum HaMitzvos Canal. Their main excitement, vitality is the fulfillment of mitzvahs, because that brings about the kavon of the betachtoinim, and they're subjugated that kavon yet. Is betachlis habitl, because also their fulfillment of mitzvahs has in it the ultimate bitl, bedugmat zum bitl the Torah, similar to the bitl of Torah. So while there is mitzvahs that they are intending and the Ratzon Elyon, but they're doing it in a level of bitl that is done by a sicha Torah. Bedugmat zum bitl Torah. This haste, as they kiyum ha-mitzvahs, that their observance of mitzvahs need and uneven. It's not in a way vozitun dem rotzin havaya. But they are doing what Hashem wants, ke'eved amakai mitzvah melech, like a slave who fulfills the mitzvah of the king. Nor is their ganzer mitzvahs, but their whole existence, their being, is vozei zayne bechinas merkabet, that they are in a level of a chariot. Through the rotzin Hashem, through which the will of Hashem is being accomplished. Not an eved to listen to Hashem, but rather they become a carriage through which Hashem's wishes become fulfilled. These as those to the extent that it is done in a way from by itself automatically bows by himself when it comes to the, doesn't have to think about bowing when it comes to the brachas in the place to bow, but it bows by himself. Because that's a merkava to do, things are just getting done through him. Specifically because of this total subjugation, that's why they merit that great level of peace. The nachas ruach lebeira. Shalom Rav, they're doing the nachas ruach for the beira, the Creator. Yud. This above subject idea is also the two commentaries on Vayeshev Yaakov Beres Megurei from the Rava Magid and from Alter Rebbe, from both the Magid and the Alter Rebbe. Both of the Magid and the Alter Rebbe have a connection with Beida Hom Mashayches Yichedes to Parshas Vayeshev. They also have a very special connection to the portion of Vayeshev. Kidu, as it's known, as the Lulav of Magid is given, the Yortzeit of the Magid was on Gimel Parshas Vayeshev. It was on Tuesday in the portion of Vayeshev, Yutas Kislev Tov Kuf Lamed Gimel, on the 19th day of Kislev, Tov Kuf Lamed Gimel, but it was on Tuesday in the Parshas of Vayeshev. On Gimel Parshas Vayeshev, Yutas Kislev Tov Kuf Nuntes, and it was on Tuesday, Parshas Vayeshev in the year Yutas Kislev Tov Kuf Nuntes. Is the Alter Rebbe Arush Lechezer went out Lechezer. So there's a special connection to Vayeshev, both to the Magid and the Alter Rebbe. And there's two commentaries. Seems utterly different. And the Rebbe will show that really they are complementing one another. The Pirush von Rava Magid, the interpretation of the Magid, Vayeshev Yaakov Ba'oretz. Yaakov sat Ba'oretz. Those was Yaakov had Yosef given. This that Yaakov descended from his very high supreme level. Leisha Be'eretz Ba'aretz is to sit in the level of Be'eretz. Vayeshev Yaakov Be'eretz. Why does Yaakov descend into the Eretz, into the Artzis, into the worldly? Is to Limaguri Aviv, to collect the collection of the sparks, Maguri Aviv, they to Nefklaim, in order to gather together, to collect Maguri Losh Nasifo Knisa. It Megure comes from the language of gathering together, bringing in. That we find gathering in the dried figs, the Nitzutzes Kedushas is gathering, the holy Kedushas was Gefinasach in Eretz, that are in Eretz. Yaakov goes down to Eretz. To bring them in and to elevate them to above. That's the Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz. Megure to collect it, Aviv, and bringing her up to Hashem. Like Pirush, according to this interpretation, it turns out as the Toich of Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz Megure Aviv. What is the idea, the contents of this Yaakov sitting in the lands where his father is an Aved of us Beikir. It's a service which is mainly Farbunah with Kiyum HaMitzvahs, with the observance of mitzvahs, and Islab Shabbat Barim Gashmi, that have been dressed up in physical matters. Eretz. Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz, coming down to the Eretz. That's the taich of the Maggid of Mizrich. The Alter Rebbe taich Megure is from Lashon Yira, afraid, Lashon of awe, and also from Lashon Oitzer, storage. As if Megura Malaya Pedus. We say a Megura full of Pedus, Shu Kli Sheitzim L'Toicha. That's a Kli that you gather in, you hold the fruit. Un Aviv, gate of Chochmah, Aviv refers to the supreme Chochmah. Und der Purish for Megure Aviv is, what does it mean? Megure Aviv is Yira Ilah. That means the higher level of awe, of fear. Was is an Oitzer and a Keli, that is a storage, and that's a vehicle for Megure to the level of Chochmah Aviv. Megure Aviv. Yira, which is a level of Oitzer for Aviv. When there is Mevayer, and as he explains, as Be'eretz Megure Aviv is verbunden, that Be'eretz Megure Aviv is tied, nicht mit der Avodah of Kiyum HaMitzvos, not with the service of Kiyum Mitzvos, nor mit Eisek HaTorah, but with the occupation of Torah. So according to the Maggid, the Pasuk is talking mainly about the mitzvahs, and according to the interpretation of the Alter Rebbe, it's talking mainly about the occupation of Torah. But Api Hanal Siftes, but based on the above and Siftes being an Oivei Torah Secho, loving Torah, which the Rebbe brings down that even the mitzvahs should be done in a way of the bittul of Oivei Torah Secho, Yesh Loimar. So we can say, as the Tzvei Perushim, for these two interpretations, they're not two separate matters, not ein Pirush is Mashlim the Tzveiten, but one commentary fills and complements the other. The Pirush from the Rav Maggid is Mevayer, the explanation of the Maggid explained in Vos as his Bashtan and Yaakov's Aveda. That is, what does Yaakov's Aveda consist of? Yaakov when Yaakov descended, Leisha Be'eretz Be'artzius, he descended to settle in the land, in the earthiness, in order to collect the nitzoitzos, those sparks that are found in the Eretz, was able to elevate them. And the Alter Rebbe is meisiv in them. The Alter Rebbe adds to it as oich di yaveda. Also, this service of mitzvahs, of elevating the sparks, was in the total subjugation. But dugmas abitl basic HaTorah, similar to the bitl of basic Torah. Just like the Gemara adds the Shalom Rov, Loivis Secha, and Tamid Chacham Bar Mishal Beilam, in a similar way, the Alter Rebbe added to the interpretation of Maggid of Mizrich. Taka de Kavone is the Kima Mitzvahs, but to get the Kima Mitzvahs done in the way of subjugation, that he becomes one, like the subjugation of Torah. Yudalef. The Biur Hanal in Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz Megure Aviv, like the Tzvei Perushim Hanal, this explanation in the two, according to the two explanations, there are Maggid and Alter Rebbe, Maggid and Alter Rebbe, is verbunden euch mit dem Maimer Azal. This is also tied to the saying of our sage of last Maimer Huvel Le'il B'tchilas HaSicha that we bring down at the beginning of Sicha, Vayeshev Yaakov Gemer Bikish Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva, that he wanted to sit in peace. Kavonas HaMedrash in Bikish Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva. What does the Medrash mean that Yaakov wanted to sit and relaxed? It's not as Yaakov had gewollt overrunnen. Not that he wanted to rest from Tzoras Esav, from the troubles of Esav, from Tzoras Lavan, and the troubles that he had in Lavan. Nor as only his Galevern, but he wanted to reveal that in Hashalom V'Shalva, the idea of the peace and the relaxation that has been accomplished with them through his sorting out these sparks, those that were in captivity, in Mitzrayim. Tzoras, those is the Tzoras Esav, Tzoras Lavan. Shalavam Esav, they were in captivity over there. And he had sorted them out. Why did he want the revelation of Shalva? Is not b'shvil atzmei, not for himself. Nor v'aladis galus is negeya, because that revelation is important canal to shleimus hamakum v'daravodah, to the ultimate wholesome intent of that service. And this idea that he wanted to sit in peace is verbunden mit dem biur. This is connected with what we said in Sif Yud in Megure Aviv. with Meguri Aviv, hat bewahren gewend in the Tzoitzes, that he sorted out those sparks, was gefinnen sich in Arzies, in the earthiness, Kepirush Rabbi Magid. Und Afal became hot that as a guitar and Eifun, and still he did it in a way from Eitzakatoida, Kepirush Admarazokin. He did it in a way of occupation of Torah, like the Alter Rebbe says. Baldos is that inyan from Oyev Sorosecha, because that is what Oyev Sorosecha. Was is a clay that becomes the vessel, the vehicle for Shalom Rav Kinal. That gets the highest level, the level of Shalom Rav. People now will also understand now how come it's only by Yaakov. It was this whole idea, Bikesh Yaakov Lev Shalom. Not, we don't find it by Avram Yitzchak. People now, but when they verstehen, based on that, but will also understand them time the reason for was der inyan from Bikesh Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva. That is that Yaakov wanted to sit, relax. Ba'elam Hazeh in this world is given dafke by Yaakov and was specifically by Yaakov and not by Avram Yitzchak, not by Avram Yitzchak. But the pasuk is madgish, as the pasuk emphasized, Eretz Megurei Aviv. It was Eretz Megurei Aviv, but Aviv is given Eretz Elam Hazeh. In an Ephraim over there, it was Megurei Aviv. Megurei was a stranger, but not Shalva. Why? Why only Yaakov? The Avodah von Avram Yitzchak Kapayimin Vasmil, the service of Yitzchak, which was the right line, left line, is given by Iker b'Bechinas Yichud Milyon Shabbat Tzilus. Mainly, it was the supreme Yichudim, the unions that were made Shabbat Tzilus and Atzilus. She'enkin Yaakov the Kavam Tzoyi, as opposed to Yaakov, who's the middle way. The middle one goes through from one extreme to the other, from one end to the other. From the highest level, because to the lowest level, so with his work, he also accomplished below. What the river is, and therefore, Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz Megurei Aviv. Therefore, Yaakov is the one that was be'eretz Megurei Aviv. There's two aspects of it. Alav Zayin Aveda be'oretz is given a name from Vayeshev, that the way he worked with the oretz was Vayeshev, not Megurei, not a stranger like Megurei Aviv, is Yashus. Nidve Avram Yitzchak Mitzad Dem was their Aved is given Biker and Atzilus. Their service was mainly in Atzilus, the spiritual levels. Is their Aved oretz given the B'chinas Gedus was in the way of Gedus Megurei Aviv. Beis durch der Aved of Vayeshev Yaakov ben Mevaretz through this Aved. Yaakov sitting by it, so that he can't do the far bikesh, so he was able to, and therefore he requested the Grech and the minion for Leisha B'Shalva Bel Hazeh to reach to the idea of sitting relaxed also in this world. The revelation and the Tanaga Atzmi from essence of Hashem is Dafke in the Rebetachtonim. The Eberster's Rotzen Tanya is specifically in Dirbe Tachtonim. So that's why it was this Yaakov and his Avodah in that level. He was ready to get the Shalva after the Tzoras Lovan and Tzora Vesa. However, the Rebbe says in Gimel, it still wasn't enough. But Alpha became, but yet, but now, even through the service above Nit, did not accomplish this idea of sitting relaxed, and his nor was Bikesh Chulu. It's only that he requested. When did he actually reach the level of Leisha B'Shalva? He only reached that after the story, the anger with Yosef. So what's the explanation? Why did he have to wait for Yosef for that? The service of the Berurim of Yaakov as he is by himself is given in an Eifen Azoich Zayndi with his Lavan. Also, while he was now, so Lavan of him Keshlitin with Gehad. Lavan had no dominance, didn't control him. Lavan hat by him sich gebeten. Lavan was begging him. Tell me what is your pay. If I find favor in your eyes. Tell me what you pay. Similarly, it's also as it relates in connection to Esav. Yosef, based on his Hurad Mitzrayim, when he descended to Mitzrayim, he was in a situation as he given an Evet. Potiphar, he was a slave by Potiphar. Put him into jail. Even after becoming a secondary king, he's a nid given Rishus Atzmei. He doesn't in his own Rishus, not a Mishnah, he was second Kabiyachul to Pari. To become Rishus, he needed to get permission. So it turns out as the embassy Yeshiva Be'eretz Beguri Aviv. When did it really descend Beguri Aviv? The Yerida Leisha B'Artzis to be descended fully in Artzis and to climbed in the Trutz's Kedusha to gather the sparks of Kedusha was given as a mata which are found below. That was accomplished when Yosef went down to Mitzrayim. Yaakov and Yosef are connected. What happened to Yaakov? Yosef is there, Yaakov is the one, Yosef is the one that brings down below the matters of Yaakov. So therefore it turns out that through Yosef's descent to Mitzrayim, Yaakov in the mata of Yosef, Yaakov accomplished the very lowest level. He went down into the Evet to Potiphar and Mishnah, and from there together the sparks. The Baal does the Leisha B'Shalva, the Gilu V'Tanagasme, since to get to the Leisha B'Shalva, which is the revelation of the essence of the delight, Nachas Ruach Lebeira, the delight for the Creator is Fabund with Vayeshev, the tied, connected sitting Aretz, the Aved in Olam Hazeh Davke, the work in this world, in Artzis, in the earthiness in the world canal, the Riber, therefore, the Inyan Leisha B'Shalva B'Poyel Nidiket Nesgalver, the actual sitting Shalva could not be revealed even after Lavan and Esav's sorting out. That wasn't yet the lowest point for Yaakov. Specifically after the anger with Yosef, the story with Yosef was the mitot on the Yerida. That accomplished the descent on the Bir Lamati Mitzrayim, the sorting out below in Egypt, nit nor in Mokim, not only in place, not only physically they went down to Mitzrayim, but also the Avodah took them all the way down to the lowest level of the Regel Canal. Zaydik nid b'shus atzma, he wasn't in his own control, he wasn't in his own domain, taking care of himself, but he was under Pari. That is when Yaakov merited to the idea of Leisha B'Shalva in actuality. This is Memaimer Divra Maschel Shalom Rav in Tafshin Lamed Ches.